Another frame that you will constantly have to win that is absolutely vital to your sales success is winning the frame of the deflection. Well, what is deflecting? Well, deflecting is when a customer gives you an objection, but rather than actually stopping and handling the objection, you simply deflect it. Well, why would we do that instead of handling an objection? Well, the first thing that you really need to understand is what's called the 92% rule. This is very, very common in sales. 92% of the first objection a customer will give you is complete and utter BS. It's not real. Well, why is that? Well, if you think about the human brain has one function. It's designed to keep you safe. And so it will always prefer what it knows to what it doesn't know. It's the same as if you're at a bar and someone wants you to go and talk to a member of the opposite sex that keeps looking at you. Well, sometimes you're going to say, hey, come on, they're looking at you. Go talk to them. And you go, oh, no, I don't know if I should. Well, you want to, but you aren't doing it. And so this is really important when it comes to selling, is customers will naturally say no to you. It's part of their instincts to say, oh, I'm not interested at the start, or oh, I'm really busy. No, they're not. Right? I remember we had one of my staff, one of my best ever sales agents, a guy named Zach. He was dealing with a customer, and he was selling the customer a product, and he said, I'm sure you agree that that's amazing. Does that make sense? And the customer said, yeah, but look, my girlfriend's a bit of a nightmare. I need to make sure I talk about this with her because she can be pretty crazy about this kind of stuff. And Zach did exactly what he was supposed to. He deflected it. He goes, that's okay, but obviously you see value in what we're doing today, right? And the customer goes, well, yeah, awesome. Let me show you how it works. How do I spell your first name? Ended up taking the customer through the sign-up process, and at the very end of the sale, he did his rehash properly. He said, awesome, look, you're happy with everything today. Is there anything else that you need from me? Really establishing that frame of being that someone that's there to help and advise. And the customer looked at him and he said, yeah, I got one thing to say. I don't have a girlfriend. I don't know why I said that to you, right? And that's exactly how customers work. Their brain will tell them to create something in order to stick to the status quo. So understanding that customer's first objection, whether that be at the start of the pitch, before the pitch, or at the end of the pitch, it doesn't matter. It's not real. And so really getting the idea of that is so powerful when you're trying to establish a frame of getting that sale across the line, that it does help them. But this is really important. Well, what is the frame that the customer is trying to establish when they object? Whether it's at the start, they say, oh, I'm really busy, or whether it's at the end that they say, oh, well, I've got this problem. Well, initially speaking, we know that it's not legitimate. Now, that said, if they give you a second objection, the second objection is generally a real concern. But again, with objection handling, we need to be aware that you have to change the dialect of what they're saying. Because a lot of times when customers object, we think they're saying, I don't want to buy it because of XYZ. But really, we need to change that internal monologue where they say, I would like to buy it, but I'm concerned about XYZ. And that way, instead of objection handling, you're actually helping solve their problems for them, which is a big part of what we do here in sales. But I digress. If we're talking about deflecting, well, whether it's at the start or whether it's at the end, the frame that they're trying to impose is, I'd like to do this, but it's a big deal. They're trying to impose a frame that says, hey, I can't do it because of this thing that's a big deal and it's very important. So the frame that we're trying to establish is the opposite. We're trying to counter that frame. And so we're establishing what I call a no big deal frame. Well, what's a no big deal frame? It's simply saying that's not a big deal. What we're talking about is more important. So you're valuing what we're doing more than we're valuing their excuse. And if you say it with more certainty, you will win that frame. They've got more doubt in their frame than you have doubt in your frame. Winning that no big deal frame is paramount to what we do. So when they say something like, right at the start, right before you even start the pitch, you go, hey, I'm really busy at the moment. Well, what they're saying is, hey, what I'm doing is more important than what you're doing. I'm doing something that's a big deal. And so I'm just going to discredit that. I'm just going to say, that's okay, look, I'll make it really quick, man. So it's not a big deal. The time's not a big deal. Or if they say, oh, look, I see what you're doing, but look, I don't have a lot of money at the moment. Well, they're saying this is a big financial commitment. And I'm saying, the frame that I'm establishing is it's not a big deal and it's not a big financial commitment. So I go, oh, I just don't know if I can afford it. That's okay, but look, what we are doing today is pretty important. As simple as that, I'm establishing a winning frame right away. Now, the quicker you can establish that no big deal frame and the more certainty that you can provide it, the more likely you are to get better pitches out and the more likely you are to close those sales. Another really important factor of winning the frame of deflecting is understanding that you're establishing control of the conversation. When you're establishing that you're in charge, the customer is much more likely to go along with the frame that you're imposing. Well, this is a simple phrase that I like to use. When you're objection handling, a lot of novice sellers will really try and sell the customer on the objection handle or on listening to them. But we know that if we're showing that lack of indifference, if we're showing the customer that we need them to buy, we're losing our credibility and we're losing our coach frame. We're giving them a sales frame and letting them win that we want what's not in their best interest. So this is really important when you deflect. Don't try and sell it to the customer. In fact, do the opposite. I say, tell it, don't sell it. Right? Tell it, don't sell it. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, if you're deflecting a customer's concern, you don't ask them, right? You don't try and get them to see value in listening to your objection handle or listening to your deflection. You plain out state it. Now, this is not applicable for a full-blown objection handle where you really perform a proper rebuttal to what you do, because remember with that, again, you're trying to re-impulse them while simultaneously solving their concern. But for a deflection, you don't say, that's okay, but look, I'm sure you see value in what we're doing today, right? See how I'm soft and weak in that position? I'll try it again with the better tonality and a better dominance of the conversation. I go, that's okay, but obviously you see value in what we're doing today, right? Look at my body language. I'm actually using what's called neuro-linguistic programming here. If you put your hand out to somebody and you nod and make your eyes a little bit bigger, they are 60% more likely to agree with you, just by doing that. So notice I'm on my front foot and I'm establishing dominance, but my tonality, there's no upward inflection. I'm not talking like this and asking them a question, right? I'm talking like this and giving them a statement, even if it is a question. So the downward inflection really establishes dominance. It's a super powerful part of establishing control of a conversation. So if I'm at the start and they say, oh, look, I'm a bit busy, can you come back a bit later? I say, that's okay, look, I'll be 30 seconds. Or if I'm a little bit cheeky and I can be fun, depending on if it's my business or someone else's business, I'll say, don't worry, they called me Captain 30 seconds in high school, I'll be really quick, right? So if you can get cheeky, feel free to be cheeky. People like cheekiness. I think the politically correct pendulum is starting to swing back to common sense now, so I think we're in the clear, right? But again, don't risk someone else's product for that. But it's really, really important. I'm telling it, I'm not selling it. I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, even if I'm asking you. So when I say, I'm sure you'd agree you see value in that, or I'm sure you'd agree, we can do better than that, or, that's great, I hear what you're saying, but what we're saying makes a bit more sense to you, right? I'm saying it with a downward inflection, I'm saying it with the proper body language, that neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP for short, and I'm really establishing dominance. The final component of really nailing the deflections, whether they be at the start of the pitch or at the end of the pitch when you win this frame, is understanding, again, the power of reaction time. When a customer gives you an objection, the longer you leave it, the more real you're going to make it. That's why I never ever objection handle when they give me an objection at the start, because you're making that objection real. Well, if we don't want to make it real, you have to understand, it's the same as if you were to drop a bit of water on your pant leg when you're at lunch. Right? Or sometimes you brush it off right away and there's not even a mark of water, but if you leave it there, it's going to dissipate, it's going to spread out. Another example is if you've got a younger sibling or a little cousin, you'll be able to relate to this. If you ever accidentally hit them and really collected them, let's say you're on a jumping castle or playing tag or whatever it may be, right? And you've connected with like an elbow or a knee and they're on the ground and you can look at them and they're looking at you and you're looking at them looking at you, and there's this moment, this split second where they're deciding if they want to cry or not. And you, being a smart older sibling, you don't want to get in trouble. So what do? You run over and you go, no, you're fine, you're okay. And they go, right? They get that little bottom lip quiver. You go, you're okay, do you want ice cream? And they go, Yeah, okay, cool. And then all of a sudden they're not hurt anymore. Well, guess what? Customers do the exact same thing. They're trying to establish that frame that they have a problem, and if you let them, they will believe that problem. But if you refuse to let them believe that problem by reacting quickly, you're gonna solve that right away. The easiest way to do that is just have a generic buzzword that you use all the time. For me, I use awesome. I just use awesome. So anytime a customer says anything to me, I'm gonna respond and say awesome, or I'm gonna say great, or I'm gonna say fantastic. I'm gonna use something high energy, because not only does it distract a little bit, it also gives me that reaction time. So even if I don't know what I'm going to say, I've bought myself time because I've used that guaranteed word. So they go, oh, look, I've already spoken to someone a couple of weeks ago about this. And I go, yeah, fantastic. And now I've bought myself time to think on my feet. Or they go, oh, look, I'm really busy. Yeah, fantastic. Look, I'll be really quick or whatever. So understanding that your reaction time isn't just pertinent when it comes to, building compliance. Your reaction time is really powerful when it comes to winning these deflections. If you can understand this, you can utilize this, you're going to be well on your way to setting sales records.